The wind moans low through the thatched roof, slipping between rafters like a thief in the night. Beneath a blanket stitched by calloused hands, you stir bare feet curled to catch the last of the warmth, if any warmth still lingers. Outside, a frostbitten world lies silent, hushed not by peace, but by poverty. The hearth is cold, the bread is gone, the rooster cries not with triumph, but hunger. And as your eyes open to the scent of wood smoke and wet straw, a dull ache echoes through your bones. You are no longer yourself. You are a serf, bound to land you do not own, to lords you do not see, and to a life carved out of mud, toil, and quiet endurance. If you woke up in a world where freedom was a myth, how would your spirit survive? If this story humbles your heart or stirs quiet wonder in your soul, consider subscribing, and tell me, could you have found hope in a life bound by soil and silence? The cold was not the kind that stung, but the kind that whispered. It seeped into the marrow of your bones without warning, gentle and quiet as breath on a mirror. The air inside the hovel was still, except for the faint rustle of straw and the shallow cough of a child to your left. Above you, the roof sagged. With the weight of time, its rafters bowed and blackened, like fingers reaching down in prayer or surrender. The sky beyond was still dark, the kind of pre-dawn blue that never truly becomes day, not in the dead of a medieval winter. You stirred, muscles stiff, the taste of ash and damp earth lingering on your tongue. Around you, silence, broken only by the distant crack of wood splitting beneath an axe, the soft flutter of chickens rousing in their pen, and the breath of those still dreaming beside you. You were not in your own bed. You were not in your own time. Your name, as you knew it, had vanished. You had awakened in the body of a serf bound, not by chains, but by duty, by land, by the quiet agreement of survival. If you've ever wondered what it means to be truly tethered to the land, come walk with me now, through this frozen dawn of another life. If this story stirred something quiet in you, consider subscribing or sharing this journey. Could you have endured such a morning, with nothing but soil beneath your feet and hunger? In your breath, the straw beneath your body is brittle, its edges sharp from the night's damp. Your breath escapes in clouds, faint ghosts that vanish before they reach the rafters. You sit up slowly, spine aching from the unkind embrace of sleep, and glance to the side, where a child curls deeper into the warmth of a threadbare blanket. Her name, you realize dimly, is Letters. Her hair is matted, her cheeks flushed with cold or fever, you're not yet sure. You do not remember her from the life you knew, but in this life, in this strange new skin, she is your sister, or perhaps your daughter, perhaps no relation at all, only another soul with whom you share this hollowed shelter of smoke and silence. You push aside the animal hide that serves as a door, and the morning meets you not with light, but with mist. A pale, low fog clings to the fields beyond, veiling the world in a hushed grey that smothers sound and blurs the horizon. The air tastes of wet wood and something darker mud, perhaps, or manure. This is a world sculpted in browns and greys, the palette of endurance. The village is barely a dozen hovels, their walls warped and weather-beaten, stitched together with timber, clay, and hope. Your breath catches at the sight of the fields. Rows upon rows of sleeping earth, crusted with frost. The furrows look like ribs beneath the stretched skin, the land itself starving alongside you. It is early spring, but winter still claws at the edges of the day, refusing to loosen its grip to your right. A man splits logs with a rhythm that has no music, just the dull, dead thud of effort. He does not look at you. He knows your face, or thinks he does. In this life, you are expected to rise without question, to fall into step with the rhythm of toil that began long before you and will continue long after. There is no privacy in this place, no moment alone, yet somehow you feel profoundly isolated, as if the very air around you knows you are foreign to it, a soul misplaced. But the body moves anyway. It bends, lifts, walks. The muscles remember even if you do not. You pass a pigsty, where two animals root through muck, their grunts thick in the silence. You see a woman squatting near a fire pit, stirring something in a blackened pot. Thin steam rises. Her eyes meet yours. She says nothing, just nods, neither warm nor cold. A greeting, perhaps, or just acknowledgement of your shared place in this quiet theatre. A rooster crows nearby, not with triumph, but with resignation. It is not the herald of glory here. Just a reminder that time moves forward, even if you remain bound to the same patch of dirt. Your hands are rough, calloused, the nails broken, soil embedded beneath them. They are not your hands, but they are now. You roll your shoulders, feel the ache, and begin walking toward the edge of the fields where the others gather. No one speaks. Words are precious. Breath is better spent in work. And so, your new life begins, not with a bang or proclamation, but with the soft squelch of your foot sinking into frostbitten earth. The tools await. The land watches. The sky holds its breath. And somewhere deep within, you begin to understand. You are not meant to escape this. Not yet. This life, this rhythm, this hard-won silence, it is yours now. And it will teach you everything. The morning unfolds, not like a blessing, but a commandment. Cold light drips through low clouds as you trudge along the muddy path toward the manor's shadow, though manor is too generous a word for the pale stone hall that rises behind thorn-tangled hedges and a weather-stained wooden gate. The structure stands apart from the village, wrapped in a hush that doesn't belong to poverty but to power. You feel it before you see it, like a weight pressing against the chest, the knowledge that someone owns this land, and you, in a way that is more binding than shackles. You pass beneath the watchful gaze of the bailiff, a man with a hawk's eyes and a parchment curled in his stiff hand like a scroll of judgment. His cloak is newer than yours, his boots oiled and whole, and yet there is a smell about him that reminds you of something sour, a man who carries authority but not respect. He calls names from the scroll, not yours, not the name you once knew, but this new name, the one this body answers to, catches in his throat like a thorn. You step forward. He does not look at your face, only scratches a line beside your name, as though measuring your usefulness in ink. Around you, others wait, eyes lowered, backs already bowed in anticipation. There is no exchange of words. This is the register of those who owe service, not by contract, but by birth, blood, and the simple, terrible fact of location. This is your place. The land itself is not yours, never will be. Yet it commands your breath, your limbs, your hours. You owe the Lord 3 days of unpaid labor each week, extra days at harvest, tides of barley and turnips, first pickings of the orchard, a chicken at Martinmas. You owe him your best, and when there is nothing left, you owe him still. The other villagers do not speak of rebellion nor of rights. Instead, they speak of weather, of blight and frost, of wolves taking lambs. These are the enemies they understand, visible, seasonal, survivable. The Lord, though distant, is as much a force of nature as wind or plague. As the bailiff moves on, a woman nudges you gently with her shoulder. She is older than you, her grey hair tucked beneath a wimple stained with years of smoke. And ash, her name is Colette. You remember it now, or perhaps this body always did. Her gaze is steady, without pity. She gestures toward the fields where a group begins to gather with rakes and flails. You bow with your back. She murmurs, voice dry as winter leaves. Not with your knees. Knees wear out faster. You nod. The path to the fields is well-trodden, furrowed by generations of barefoot trudging. Each footstep falls into another's print, worn deeper by centuries of repetition. No revolution, only erosion. A rhythm so old it has become invisible. Colette walks beside you, pointing as she speaks. That plots the Demana lords. Own we tend it first. Ours waits till after. You see it now, the subtle differences. The rows of cabbage in the Lord's fields are neater, better spaced. His wheat stands taller. Even the soil smells richer, though the land is the same. It is not the land itself that changes, it is the care, the priority, the unspoken hierarchy of fertility. You are handed a hoe. Its handle is worn smooth by 100 other palms. You kneel and begin. Stones scrape against the blade. Roots resist. Earth clings to your fingers like memory. A bell tolls from the manor deep and slow. Not a church bell, not a summons to prayer. A reminder, your hours are counted. Your labor is measured. Time stretches in this field. It is marked not by clocks, but by aches, by the angle of the sun, by the way your stomach growls sometime before noon, and continues to growl long after. The rhythm is one of endless repetition, till, break, carry, bend. Sweat stings your eyes, even in the chill, and the muscles in your back begin to sing a slow-burning hymn of fatigue. By mid-afternoon, your thoughts begin to blur. You no longer think in hours, but in movements. You are no longer fully Yuanli. Arms, hands, spine. Colette passes behind you, handing you a scrap of cloth soaked in vinegar. You press it to your lips. It tastes like rot, but revives you enough to finish the row dot. As the sun dips, the bell tolls again, this time a single long note, like a sigh. The day's duty is done. The villagers begin to shuffle back, silent and stooped. No one complains. Complaints require energy, and no one has any to spare. As you return toward the village, you notice a boy following behind you, his arms hugging a bundle of firewood nearly as tall as he is. His eyes are wide, too old for his face. You wonder what he's seen, what he's lost, but you do not ask. At the edge of the manor's path, Colette stops beside a marker stone carved with an ancient cross. She touches it, fingers reverent, and mutters something beneath her breath. You pause, listening, just reminding the land we're still here, she says, then adds, in case it forgets. You nod again, but deeper this time, because already you feel it, the land remembering you, taking you in, writing you into its folds. Not as a master, not as a guest, but as something tethered, something claimed. Smoke curls low in the dusk like a ribbon of prayer. It clings to your clothes, your hair, your very skin, as you step into the cramped, soot-streaked chamber where the village oven breathes its daily miracle. The walls are blackened with years of fire and flour, and the heat radiates from the domed hearth, like the pulse of some buried beast. This is no place of joy. Not exactly, but it is a place of reverence, a holy site. For the humble, bread is being made, and that is enough. The women move like ghosts through steam and shadow. They knead and shape with hands that have memorized the rhythm through hunger, not instruction. You hear the soft slap of dough against wood, the hiss of fire-fed stone, the creak of shoulders grown stiff with repetition. A girl barely taller. Then your waist sprinkles ash to test the heat, her fingers quick and unafraid. She smiles without showing her teeth and returns to her place. You're handed a lump of dough. Colette watches. Her eyes are not cruel, but neither are they indulgent. Bread is too serious for charity. You press your palms into the dough, folding and turning as she showed you yesterday. Though yesterday feels like a lifetime away, the flour stings the small cracks in your fingers, and the dough resists at first, then surrenders, slowly, like the land, like your own soul. Here, you learn the weight of hunger, not the kind that rumbles through a missed meal, but the deep, gnawing ache that turns dreams to crumbs and silence into lament. Last winter, a woman traded her daughter's shoes for a half loaf. The memory hovers, unspoken but present, like the scent of scorched crust in the corners of the room. A woman tells a story as she shapes her dough. Her voice is soft, as though afraid of waking something slumbering in the oven's core. She speaks of a time when the wheat grew thick and high, when the bread rose full and golden, and the children sang as they ate. Her words are wistful, and no one asks when this was. Everyone knows, if it happened at all, it was long ago. The bread goes in with practiced movements. Long wooden paddles slide beneath the raw loaves, lifting them into the oven's red mouth. You feel the wave of heat against your skin, and it almost feels like comfort. As you wait, the room becomes a quiet chorus. Someone hums. A child stirs flour into circles on the floor, tracing invisible saints. Colette leans near and whispers of the punishment once dealt to a woman who tried to bake in secret outside the Lord's domain. They say her bread turned to stone in the oven, and she wept until her eyes went blind. Whether it's truth or tale, you're not sure, but you feel a new awe settle in your chest. Then it comes, the smell, the slow blooming of warmth and salt and earth. It is not sweet, not rich, but it is real, a kind of hope you can hold in your hands. The bread is pulled from the oven, crusted and cracked, steam curling from the fissures like incense from an altar. Colette tears off a piece and passes it to you. The crust burns your fingertips, but you don't drop it. You press it to your lips. The first bite is rough coarse grain, ash, maybe even a pebble butt. It fills your mouth with something more than flavor. It is history, struggle, memory. It is prayer turned to substance. You chew slowly, reverently. In that moment, the world narrows to this bite. You are no longer a visitor in this life. You are a body fed, a mouth silenced by warmth, a soul grounded in grain. A boy to your left breaks his piece in two, offering half to a girl with chapped lips. She accepts without thanks. Thanks are rare, here too expensive to offer for things that might not come again. As the light fades outside, the oven's glow becomes your sun. You sit among these strangers who are now kin, wrapped in the quiet intimacy of shared hunger. No titles matter here. No lords, no scrolls, only the rhythm of kneading, the crackle of crust, and the knowledge that you will rise tomorrow. Not from rest, but from necessity. Colette leans back, her face half in shadow, and says to no one in particular, the bread remembers. You do not ask what she means. Somehow you understand. The bread remembers the hands that shaped it, the fields that bore it, the storms that threatened it. It remembers the backs bent in sowing, the prayers whispered in drought, the silence of famine. It remembers what it cost, and so do you. The bell does not ring like music. It tolls like a wound opened in the sky, a sound that cleaves the morning into two, the part before and the part after. It rolls across the frost-covered fields and smoke-veiled rooftops, low and slow and thick, like iron dragged across stone. You feel it more than you hear it inside your ribs, in the soles of your feet. It is not a summons you choose. It is a call to submission, as constant as hunger and as old as sin. You pull your cloak tighter, though it offers little warmth. The wind threads through its holes like fingers, finding skin as if by memory. Around you, others begin to gather in small clusters, like crows drawn to the same field. No one speaks. There is no need. You all know where you are going. The chapel waits at the far end of the village, crouched in a hollow of ancient stones, its roof patched with thatch and prayer. It is not large, nor grand, but it stands tall in silence, as if bearing witness to every sorrow this land has buried. The path is slick with thawed frost, mud rising to greet your boots. A child slips and is caught by his mother, who scolds him not with words, but with a quick look. You walk behind them, watching their outlines blur through the fog. The bell tolls again, slower this time, a deeper sound, a reminder when you pass. Through the chapel's threshold, the air changes, colder somehow, though no wind stirs inside. The scent of beeswax and old incense wraps around you, clinging to your throat. Smoke lingers in the rafters like held breath. There are no pews, here just wooden planks, pitted and worn from centuries of kneeling. A rough-hewn crucifix hangs above the stone altar, the figure of Christ carved with angular suffering. His eyes are downcast, always downcast. You kneel. Everyone does. Without question, without thought. Your knees touch cold stone, and you feel its unforgiving truth. This world is not soft. Salvation, like bread, is not free. The priest appears from a dark corner, robes stiff with soot and frayed linen. His voice, when it comes, is not gentle. It is Latin ancient and commanding, a language that floats above your understanding, but lands heavy on your soul. He does not look at you as he speaks. He looks through you, over you, beyond you, pax vobiscum, and also with you. You do not know the words, but your mouth forms them anyway. Your body remembers, even if your mind still stumbles. He speaks of obedience, of toil and penance, of finding God in suffering, in soil, in silence. He reminds you that your position, lowly hungry, nameless is not a curse, but a path to grace. That your suffering here on earth will be rewarded in the next life, should you bear it well. Should you remain still, humble, silent. You feel the words press against your spine. They do not lift you, they weigh you down. Behind you, someone coughs wet and long. The sound echoes through the stone chamber like a confession. The priest does not pause. He has heard it before. You rise when told. You cross yourself. You do not question. Outside, the light is whiter now, filtered through the veil of mist. You squint up at the chapel's bell tower, nothing more than a wooden crossbeam and watch as a boy climbs down. Rope burned into his palms. His face is blank. He does not know your story. He only knows that the bell must ring, every day, no matter what. You walk back through the slush and silence. Behind you, the chapel fades into grey. Ahead, the fields await, lined with footpaths and frozen footprints. But, for a moment, just a moment, you pause. You think of the God you just knelt before, of the words carved into his face, etched into the stone beneath his feet. You wonder if he hears these bells, if he weeps when they ring. And you wonder, too, if salvation can be found in a world where the only music is made from iron and obedience. A crow caws from a naked tree. Its wings cut the sky like blades. The bell tolls once more, and you walk on. The night does not fall, it seeps. Like ink into parchment, it spreads through the thatched gaps above you, soft and slow, until the entire world is smudged into silence. There are no stars tonight, no moon to hang its silver eye over the hovels of the forgotten. Just the hush of a sky too tired to glimmer, and the creak of timber that bends in sleep. Inside, breath mingles with smoke, with straw, with sweat. The air is thick. You share it with 4 others, 5 if you count the fear. Colette sits near the door, her back against the wall, her hands busy with a bundle of dry rushes. She weaves without looking, her fingers working from memory, as if the action itself wards off the dark. Bernard lies on a pallet of burlap and hay, wrapped in a cloak that smells of wet stone and old wool. His breath is shallow but steady. The man does not speak unless he must. War took his leg, yes, but it also stole his words. And then there are the children. They have names, or they did once. No one uses them now. The boy is thin as a spindle, with lashes long as flax threads. The girl is quieter, eyes wide and unblinking. They do not call you father, nor brother, but they watch you, as if waiting to learn how to survive the night by watching the way you sit, the way you exhale. The candle sputters low in its clay dish, its flame dancing in panic as a draught teases. The wick shadows climb the walls like vines. You huddle close to the hearth, though the fire has already retreated to its embers. Still, you pretend. You stretch your hands toward the glow as if warmth could be summoned by hope alone, and then you hear it. The scratch, dot light, rhythmic. The sound of claws on wood, rats. They are always here, beneath the floorboards, behind the sacks of grain, among the straw where boots are stored. They are not visitors, they are neighbors, tenants of the same misery, but tonight they are bolder. Hunger makes everything brave. You listen as they move. One leaps from beam to beam above. Another squeals behind the wall. A third appears near the hearth, its eyes catching the candlelight like polished stones. The children flinch. Colette does not. Don't show fear, she whispers. They remember you. Don't ask what she means. This is not the kind of world where every truth needs speaking aloud. Here, legends nest beside vermin. Folklore walks with the fleas. Fear, like faith, is passed down in silence. The wind picks up, threading through the cracks in the wall like a thief seeking warmth. The door shifts in its frame. The hovel groans. Outside, the trees sigh like old women recounting a loss they cannot forget. You wrap your cloak tighter, pressing your back to the wall. But the chill creeps in anyway, filling your joints, your lungs, your teeth. Someone speaks. It is the boy. They say there's a wolf. He whispers, voice papery. In the woods, with red eyes, bigger than a cow. Colette does not look up. And who told you that? He shrugs. Martin. Martin's dead, she says flatly. Silence. You can hear your own heartbeat now. A slow, stubborn drum. Behind it, the rat scratching begins again. The girl moves closer to you, her breath warm against your arm. She does not speak, but her tiny fingers curl around the hem of your tunic like a lifeline. Bernard stirs. He mutters something you do not catch. His hand twitches. His eyes stay closed. You wonder what dreams stalk a man who has survived 3 winters with 1 leg and no hope. Outside, hooves thunder past in the dark. You sit up straight. Everyone does. A rider, alone, no torch, no voice, just the rush of hooves, fading fast. You listen for a cry, a shout, the clang of a sword, but none comes. Only the wind, the rats, and the children's breaths. Taxman, Colette says at last. Or worse, you nod. No one needs to explain further. In this place, danger does not always announce itself. Sometimes it rides past without stopping. Sometimes it stays for days. The candle dies. Snuffed without warning, without ceremony. Darkness folds in like a cloak. And yet you remain seated, eyes open, hands resting in your lap. The others shift, find sleep, or something like it. But you cannot. You sit with the rats, with the wind, with the girl curled at your side, and the old man breathing unevenly across the room. You sit with your thoughts, and with the growing sense that even silence is never truly empty. You are learning something vital here, not from books, but from shadows. That survival is not only about food and fire. It is about listening, about knowing when not to speak, about sitting very still and letting the darkness look you over without flinching. Because in this world, fear is not what you run from, it is what you learn to live beside. The rooster screams before the sun crests the hills. Not a cheerful crow, but a wrath-throated wail, as if dragged from the bird's ribs by some invisible force. You rise with the sound still clinging to your bones, the chill of the hovel like ice water in your lungs. Your limbs ache before you've moved. The straw mat groans beneath you as you stand. It is not yet light, but the work does not wait for light. You step outside into a world the color of ash. The sky is smeared with pre-dawn blue, and a breath of frost clings low over the fields, curling like ghosts along the furrows. Your boots are stiff with yesterday's mud, your hands already cracked from cold and clay. But you walk toward the tool shed, toward the fields, toward the rhythm that has no end. Bernard waits at the edge of the pasture. He leans on a crude walking stick carved from elm, the shape of it worn to his hand. His right leg ends just above the knee, wrapped in rags. His eyes are narrow, his jaw stiff. But he nods when he sees you, and together you move to the plough. It is a simple thin wooden frame, rusting iron tip, leather straps stained with years of labor. The oxen that once pulled it are long gone, taken as tithe or meat. And so, today, like most days, you are the beast. The harness digs into your shoulders. The rope cuts across your chest. You lean forward. Bernard steadies the handles behind you, directing the plough with short, sharp grunts. And the earth, reluctant and cold, resists. The soil is heavy from last night's thaw. It clings to the blade like it does to memory, thick, unyielding, dark. Each step requires the weight of your whole body. Each row stretches longer than the last. The wooden yoke rubs at your neck, already raw. But you do not stop. There is no praise for this work. No coin, no song. Just the knowledge that if you do not break the ground, nothing will grow. And if nothing grows, you will not eat. Bernard speaks only once that morning. His voice is dry, rasping through cracked lips. Don't fight the earth. Let it open. You glance back, confused. He doesn't look at you. Push too hard and she closes. Too soft and nothing grows. Let it open, you nod. And somehow you begin to feel it. The pulse of the land. The rhythm of each step, each drag, each breath. You shift your stance. Change the angle of your pull. And slowly the soil begins to part. Worms writhe in the freshly turned rose, pale and blind. A robin perches nearby, watching, then hops down to claim its prize. Life feeding on life, in quiet acceptance. By midday the sun shows its reluctant face, veiled in mist. You pause to drink water from a cracked wooden ladle. The taste is metallic, cold, but welcome. Bernard leans on his stick, watching the sky. Rain. Coming, he mutters. You squint upward. You see no clouds. He catches your glance. You'll learn to feel it, like old bones. You look down at your hands, blistered, streaked with dirt, as if the earth has tattooed itself into your skin. And you begin to understand what Bernard means. This land speaks in weight, in wind. In silence, the afternoon brings a second wind or, perhaps, numbness. Your body no longer argues. It moves on instinct. One row, then the next. The blade sings against stone. Your breath clouds the air. Sweat soaks your tunic, even in the cold. Children run past, chasing a stick like it's a stag. Their laughter rings out across the furrows brief, bright and strange. A sound that doesn't belong here, but insists itself anyway. You watch them vanish over the hill, then return to the plough. As the light begins to soften, the wind shifts. The clouds gather in the west like sheep mustered by unseen hands. Bernard clucks his tongue. That's it. You stop, shoulders trembling, spine bent. You ache in places you hadn't known existed. But the rows are finished. The earth, newly opened, lies behind you in quiet submission. Together, you haul the plough back to its lintu, brushing mud from its blade like a soldier tending his sword. Bernard walks slower now, leaning heavily on his stick. You offer an arm. He grunts, but does not refuse. Back at the hovel, the others await. Colette stirs something thick and grey in a pot. The smell is bland, but warm. You take your bowl with both hands, blowing steam from its surface before you sip. No one asks how the work went. They already know that you eat. You listen to the crackle of kindling, and you realize today your hands made a mark. Not in stone, not in parchment, but in the soil, in the turning of the land, and the land remembers. The morning begins with unease in the marrow. Not fear, exactly, but anticipation, sharp as a blade resting on the tongue. The villagers rise earlier than usual. Faces are washed in buckets of frigid water. Tunics are brushed, cloaks patched with fresh thread. Children are scolded into silence. The air tastes different today, rich with smoke and expectation. Somewhere beyond the hedgerows and the ploughed earth, the manor stirs. Today is the seigneur's day. You hear the announcement before you see him hooves on packed earth, the jangle of harness, the quick bark of the bailiff's command. The path is swept with pine boughs. The commoners line it with eyes downcast, hands clenched. You follow suit. Though your back resists the bough, your neck stiff from yesterday's toil, still you bend. Because this world bends or it breaks, and then he arrives. The Lord's horse is white not, pure white, but the yellowed ivory of bone. It prances, annoyed. At the tight reins, hooves carving crescents in the damp soil. Upon its back sits a man who does not look real. He is wrapped in fur-lined wool, fine leather gloves hiding soft hands. His hair is oiled and tied with a silver clasp. His eyes pass over the crowd like sunlight on stone warmth without contact. Beside him, on a second mount, is a girl, perhaps 12. His daughter, you think. She wears a gown that glitters faintly, like frost in morning light. Her cheeks are flush, but not from cold. She watches the people with something like fascination, or perhaps pity. As the procession passes, Colette whispers near your ear, "Even God must serve the rich." You say nothing, but the words coil in your gut like a second hunger. Later, the feast begins. Not for you, of course. For them, you are summoned to the manor grounds, not to dine, but to bear witness. Long tables are set beneath an awning stitched with gold thread, platters of roasted goose steam in the sunlight. Fat figs are sliced open like wounds, their flesh glistening. Sweet almond paste, rolled into shapes of doves and stars, melts on tongues you'll never know. You and the others stand behind a rope, kept at distance, but not out of sight. Your presence is part of the performance, proof of dominion. The Lord must be seen feeding while others watch. So the world remembers its order. Servants in cleaner tunics than yours pass by with pitchers of wine. The scent alone is intoxicating spiced. And sharp, a boy near you stares too long. A guard cuffs him gently, not unkindly, but firmly enough to teach the lesson. The girl his daughter glances toward the gathered serfs. Her eyes find yours, just for a moment. There is no fear there, only curiosity. You wonder what she sees. A beast of burden, a mystery, a shadow in human form. The musicians begin to play flute, lute, drum. The melody is bright, unfit for this. Grey sky. The music feels like mockery and mercy all at once. It echoes through the trees, through the walls of your chest. A sound from a world you do not live in. Your stomach coils. You had cabbage broth for breakfast. Thin, bitter, the kind that warms the tongue but leaves the bones cold. You could not finish it. Now the scent of goose fat and honeyed wine fills your head, turning your hunger into nausea. And yet you do not look away. This is not punishment. This is instruction. This is the feast you will never taste. This is the dream kept always an arm's length away. Not impossible, just unreachable. Someone behind you whispers about a boy who once stole a plum from the manor orchard. He was caught, stripped, and tied to a tree, left for 3 days. When they untied him, he no longer spoke. You don't know if the story is true, but it doesn't matter. The fear is, the feast stretches into afternoon. Laughter rises and falls like a tide. The Lord lifts his goblet, toasts something no one can hear. Perhaps his own generosity, perhaps his horse. Either way, the crowd murmurs politely. Bernard, beside you, does not murmur. His jaw clenches, eyes fixed on a spot just past the table. Colette watches the girl. She marries some duke, she says, not bitter, just stating the weather. Bear sons, die in childbirth, maybe. Even they're not safe. Not really. You wonder if it's comfort she's offering. As the sun begins to fall, the feast dwindles. The servants gather scraps, bones scraped clean, fruit peels twisted like ribbons. These will be tossed, burned, buried, never touched by the hands who watched them, and still your mouth waters. The Lord mounts his horse, the girl climbs behind him. They ride off without ceremony. The rope is removed. the villagers disperse. You walk back to your hovel with the taste of someone else's food in your lungs. You are not angry, not exactly. You are reminded of where you are, of who you are not. And as you sit beside the hearth, warming your hands over a pot of boiling turnips, you think of the girl's eyes. Not cruel, not kind, just watching. The path to the village market is long and rutted, carved into the earth by cartwheels and the stubborn tread of feet that have walked it for generations. You begin the journey before dawn, a bundle of eggs wrapped in wool tucked carefully beneath your arm, and a crude wooden charm swinging from a leather cord around your neck. The air is damp, and the fields lie heavy with mist, each fence post and shrub clothed in dew. Behind you, the hovel shrinks into the distance, swallowed by fog and memory. You walk with others, a loose string of peasants stretched along the road like beads worn smooth by prayer. Some carry baskets, some pull sledges, some go empty, hoping to trade stories or news. Colette walks just ahead, her pace steady, her cloak patched with waxed linen. Her silence, as usual, speaks louder than speech. As the village comes into view, a strange sort of energy stirs in your chest. The market is not joy, but it is motion, it is color, it is noise. In a life sculpted from sameness, it is a break in rhythm. Even hunger feels different here. The square opens before you like a mouth, lined with timber-framed stalls draped in frayed cloth. The cobblestones are wet from the morning's melt, slick underfoot. Smells greet you: first smoke, manure, salted fish, boiled wine. Then voices, layered and urgent, haggling, laughing, shouting, whispering. A boy sings a bawdy tune while juggling bruised apples. A woman chases a chicken that isn't hers. A drunk priest stumbles from a tavern, his robe stained and his cross askew. You make your way to the far edge, where barter is less structured and coin less common. There, you lay your eggs on a woven mat and wait, the charm around your necker. Crude carving of a stag rests near them, offered in trade for something useful. You watch as people pass, eyes lingering only briefly. Eggs are not rare, but they are fresh. A tanner approaches first. He smells of lime and decay, his apron stiff with old hides. He eyes your goods and offers a knife with a broken tip. You shake your head. He spits near your feet and walks away. Then comes a woman with a spindle and yarn dyed blue from woad. Her hands are raw, her eyes soft. She offers 2 skeins and a tale about her sister's dreams. You nod, accept 1 skein and a small sack of rye. No coin changes hands, just usefulness. As you pack your things, a man you've never seen approaches. His cloak is finer, though faded, and his beard is streaked with road dust. A peddler, perhaps, or something else. He squats beside your mat, not to trade, but to speak. From the south, he says, his accent thick and lilting. They wear shoes year-round, even in summer. You raise an eyebrow. He chuckles. Leather, real, no holes. And their streets, paved with stone. No mud, even in spring. You say nothing, but your fingers tighten around your pouch. He leans in. There are vineyards there. You've never tasted grapes like theirs. Sweet as sin, you ask, finally. Why he left? His smile fades. War, salt tax, all the same in the end. He leaves without taking anything, vanishing into the crowd like mist under sun. But his words stay. You tuck the charm back beneath your tunic. It is nothing, really, just a shape your fingers carved one night beside the fire. But it's all you have left from the woods. From before, a bell tolls in the church nearby. A merchant shouts about new cloth from Burgundy. A dog chases a rat between barrels. The market swells around you, messy and alive. You trade again before leaving a single egg for a needle with a looped eye, perfect for mending your only cloak. And a story from a baker's boy, that the Lord's youngest son drowned in a pond. And now his ghost walks in the manor orchard, singing lullabies to birds. You do not know if it's true, but it is worth more than bread. On the way home, Colette catches up to you. She has a heel of cheese and a smile she tries to hide. That boy, she says, nodding back toward the market. His grapes taste like regret. You laugh. It's a quiet sound, strange in your own throat. The road home is no shorter, but it feels lighter. Your pouch swings fuller than it left. Not with riches, but with things that matter. Yarn, rye, a needle, a ghost story, and something else possibility, as the hovel comes into view once more. Smoke curling gently from its roof, you realize that path between where you are and where you dream is not straight, but it exists, even if only in the shape of a peddler's voice. It begins with a cough dry, hollow, harmless. Or so you tell yourself. Colette clears her throat one morning near the hearth, her hand pressed to her chest, fingers curling as if to catch the sound and bury it before anyone hears. But you hear, everyone does. In the silence that follows, the room stiffens. No one says the word, not yet. Words have power. And this one plague summons shadows. The girl, the one with eyes too wide for her face, begins to sleep more. Her breath grows shallow. Her limbs twitch in her dreams. The boy stops chasing chickens in the mud. He sits near the fire, silent, watching, as if he can feel something creeping in. The hovel's air grows heavier. Even the rats seem to vanish, as though nature itself holds its breath. You step outside one morning and smell something beneath the smoke, something metallic. Wrong. The fields are quiet. The trees do not rustle. The birds, once scolding from the rooftops, have flown by the fourth day. Colette does not rise. Her eyes are glassy, her lips cracked and dark. You sit beside her, spooning water between her teeth. She drinks in silence, then whispers, "Don't let them burn me too soon." You promise? You don't know if you can keep it. The priest comes, robed and trembling. He stands outside the hovel, refusing to cross the threshold. He mutters prayers in Latin, his hand raised like a shield. He sprinkles holy water over the door. The droplets freeze before they reach the ground. He leaves without touching anyone. You burn herbs in the hearth sage, rosemary, dried nettles from last summer's harvest. The smoke curls round the beams, fragrant and bitter. You hold it in, your lungs as if it might root out the sickness. But the air remains heavy. Sour, the girl stops speaking. Her small body curls tighter each night. You hold her once, when she shivers uncontrollably. Her skin is hot, then cold, then damp. She sleeps with her head on your chest, and you pretend your heartbeat will anchor her to this world. It doesn't. She dies just before dawn, with her hand still clutched around your tunic. No last words, just a breath that never returns. You sit beside her for hours. The others do not speak. Later that day, the boy begins to cough. The hovel no longer feels like shelter. It is a cradle for decay. You open the door wide, hoping the wind might carry the sickness away. But the wind does not enter. It skirts the frame, as if the illness has claimed dominion. Colette worsens. Her cheeks sink, her nails darken. Bernard stands watch, one hand resting always on the hilt of the knife he no longer sharpens. His eyes are red not from tears, but from something deeper, a saltless grief. The boy dies 3 days after the girl, in his sleep, his mouth open, his hand reaching toward the ceiling, as if for something just out of reach. You carry him into the cold, his body light, wrapped in your cloak. You dig the grave yourself, hands raw and bloody. The ground is half frozen. The shovel strikes stone, again and again, and still you dig. You do not weep, you do not stop. Only when the hole is done do you look up and realize Bernard is watching from the doorway. You bury the girl beside the boy. No marker, no song, just a stone placed between them and a prayer you do not speak aloud. That night, Colette asks for the rosary. You find it near her pallet, tucked beneath a strip of linen. The beads are worn smooth, the cross stained with oil and ash. You place it in her hands. She grips it once, then lets it rest on her chest. Her breathing slows. She does not speak again. In the morning she is still. You do not bury her immediately. You sit with her body for hours, the door open, the wind finally entering. You light a candle. The flame wavers, then steadies. That evening, you carry her out. Bernard helps you dig this time. He says nothing, but he does not look away. The grave is shallow. You line it with pine boughs. You lay her down gently, as if she might wake. You place the rosary beside her heart. You cover her with earth. You do not mark the spot, but you remember. You remember all three. You remember the sound of their laughter, the way the girl traced saints into the flower, the way the boy leaned against you in sleep, the way Colette said your name when no one else did. You sit alone that night beside the dying fire, your hands black with soil, your throat raw from smoke and silence. The wind moves through the thatch. Above you, the plague has passed, but something else remains, something hollow, something permanent. Morning arrives wrapped in silence, not the peaceful hush of a resting village, nor the slow quiet that follows snowfall. This silence is heavier, thick, metallic, shaped like a bruise. It presses against your chest as you step outside, breath clouding before your face, and see the world blurred in a dense, low fog. It clings to the ground like mourning cloth, softening the edges of the world, muting the light. Even the trees have forgotten their shape. Even the crows do not call Dot today. You bury the dead. Colette, the boy, the girl, 3 graves dug beneath. Stone-colored sky. There is no priest, no choir, no bell. The chapel will not have them. Not now, not after the whisper of plague. Bernard walks beside you. His gait is slow, uneven, his leg dragging like an anchor behind him. He holds a rusted shovel, knuckles white from cold and effort. Neither of you speaks. Grief now is a quiet companion. You wear it like a second cloak, and it weighs more than wool. The ground receives your footsteps with reluctance. Patches of earth, damp and frozen, refuse to yield. The tools chatter against stone. Your breath grows ragged. You've lost all sense of time. There is only labor that you begin with the girl. Her body is light, wrapped in linen stiff from drying. Near the hearth, you carry her in your arms as you once carried bundles of straw. Bernard has lined the shallow pit with pine branches. The fog drips from them like tears. You place her down gently, her hands folded over her chest. There are no words, only a stone pressed into the soil. Beside her then the boy. You remember the way he once hummed to himself while chasing chickens. the way his fingers traced knots into the wooden frame of the doorway. You remember the fear in his eyes when Colette first coughed. You lower him into the ground beside his sister. You do not flinch. You do not cry. Bernard lays a sprig of rosemary atop the shroud, not for fragrance, for memory. Then Colette. She is heavier, still warm, though she has been gone for hours. The rosary is clutched between her fingers, the beads pressed into her skin. Her face is peaceful now, the lines of pain softened into something else, resignation, perhaps, or simply rest. You dig deeper this time, deeper than before, because she deserves more. The soil is dense, your muscles scream, the fog weights your hair, your back, your hands. The hole fills slowly with shadow, and then she is gone, laid to rest beneath the earth that once fed her, covered not with prayers, but with your sweat and silence. You and Bernard sit for a long time beside the graves. The mist moves like breath between the trees. A branch cracks somewhere in the forest, distant, irrelevant. Eventually he speaks. She used to sing before the wars, had a voice like honey and fire. You nod. She lost it when her husband died. He adds, didn't sing again, but she never forgot how. The graves are marked with nothing more than small stones, one with a slash carved into its face, one smooth, one split in two. The fog lingers. You think of the chapel, its bell untouched. The prayers reserved for those who die clean, who die seen. These three are not recorded. Their names will not be spoken during Mass. The Lord will not know them. The record keeper will not etch them, but you will remember. You will carry their names in the calluses of your hands, in the scar on your left knee from the shovel's blade, in the rosemary scent clinging to your tunic. As the sun struggles behind the clouds, you rise. Bernard stands beside you. He does not speak again. Together, you walk back to the hovel. The door creaks open. The fire is cold, but you light it anyway. And in the rising flame, you think of Colette's voice, the one you never heard, and you imagine what her song might have sounded like, sweet and low. And lingering, the snow no longer falls in flurries, it drifts like despair, slow and constant, as if the sky itself cannot stop weeping. The world outside your door is cloaked in white, and beneath it everything waits, not in peace, in stillness, in silence, the kind of silence that doesn't soothe, but stifles. The frost has crept into the bones of the village. It seeps through shutters, through skin, through the very marrow of life. Smoke coils reluctantly from the hovelled chimneys, thinner, now fainter. Fuel is scarce. What little wood remains is damp, heavy with the scent of rot and desperation. You feed the fire only when you must. Every ember is an offering, every spark a memory you cannot afford to lose. Inside the hovel, the air barely stirs. Bernard lies beneath his cloak, face pale, breath shallow. He speaks only in murmurs, now half prayers, half dreams. His fingers twitch in his sleep, as if counting something lost long ago. The firelight dances across the hollows of his cheeks, revealing the slow retreat of flesh from bone. There is no laughter in the village, no song, no children at play. Those who still walk do so with heads bowed, shoulders hunched, steps measured. Hunger has narrowed them. Faces have grown longer, eyes more distant. Words are rationed, smiles extinct. The well has frozen twice. Each morning you shatter the crust of ice with a stone, plunging your hands into the freezing water until your skin burns. The cold is not sharp. It is dull, brutal, merciless. You carry the bucket back with fingers stiff as branches, the handle biting into your palm. Food has become memory. The root cellar holds little more than frostbitten onions and 2 shriveled turnips. You slice them thin and boil them in the broth is grey, tasteless, but hot. You sip it slowly, pretending each drop carries warmth deep into your belly. At night, the wind howls through the village like a ghost denied rest. It presses against the hovel walls, searching for a way in. Sometimes it finds one. A crack beneath the eaves, a gap in the floorboards. You plug them with cloth, with straw, with hope. You dream of bread, of warmth, of sunlight that doesn't bite. And always, you wake colder than you fell asleep. One morning, Bernard doesn't rise. You sit beside him, waiting. He does not stir. His lips are blue, his eyes half-lidded. He looks like he has merely drifted into a deeper sleep. You do not touch him. You sit there, watching the fire die down to a single thread of orange. The warmth does not reach you. You do not cry. There is no energy left for tears later. You wrap him in his own cloak. You do not bury him. The ground is too hard. The spade's blade snaps against it, steel fractured by frost. You lay him in the lean-to beside the hovel, his body tucked beneath straw and canvas. You mark the door with a bundle of herbs, not for superstition, for remembrance, and you whisper his name. The sky remains grey for 7 days. Not the grey of clouds, but the grey of forgetting. Time blurs. You no longer know which day is Sunday. The chapel bell hasn't rung in weeks. No priest walks the path. No news comes. The villagers move like wraiths. You see a woman once, stumbling, barefoot through the snow with a dead chicken in her arms. Her eyes do not blink, her feet bleed. No one stops her. The animals are gone, dead, eaten, vanished. The pigs first, then the goats, then the dogs. The cats remain silent, watching, waiting. Your hands have become foreign to you, Claude, pale, cracked and bleeding. You barely recognize their shape as you cradle the fire each night, coaxing warmth from twigs no thicker than a finger. You no longer dream. Sleep is shallow, slippery. When it comes, it brings only echoes. Laughter you once heard, the smell of rye, the shape of a window you've never seen, but never warmth, never rest. You survive, that is all. One breath, then another. Winter will end. It must, but not today. Today it deepens. Today it presses its weight into your chest and waits to see if you will rise. And somehow by will or stubbornness you do. The snow finally stops, but it does not melt. It settles into the bones of the village, becoming part of the landscape, white upon white, silence upon silence. The sky is the same grey it has been for weeks, but today there is movement on the road. You see him from the threshold of the hovel, a figure shuffling toward the village, small against the endless white, bent beneath a bundle of cloth and books strapped across his back. His robes are brown, ragged, soaked dark at the hem. A hood shadows his face. He walks with the steady patience of someone who has been walking for a very long time. He does not knock on doors. He pauses at the chapel, then makes his way to the fire pit at the center of the square, now snow-choked and dormant. A few villagers emerge to watch, eyes wary, bodies still hunched from cold and grief. You join them. He pulls back his hood, a monk, not young. His beard is stiff with ice, his eyes bright, alive, as though something within him still remembers how to glow. I come from the south, he says, voice hoarse but steady. By way of rouage, I bring words, and warmth, if you'll have it. There are no threats in his manner, no tithe, no judgment, just the scent of parchment and cloves. And a sack of stale bread he tears and offers freely. You step forward and take a piece. It is dry, tough, but it tastes like a story. Later he comes to the hovel. You offer what little warmth remains, and he accepts it without pride. You give him broth, though there is hardly enough for yourself. He takes it in his hands and drinks it as if it were wine. I've walked through 7 villages, he says. Only 3 still had fire. He speaks slowly, like someone who chooses each word from a long shelf of forgotten books. His voice is low, gravelly, but calm. You feel your body soften just listening. You ask why he comes north, in winter, when the road is more beast than path. He smiles. To remember and to remind. From his satchel, he pulls a scrap of parchment, frayed, stained with oil and time. It is not much of a map, but it is a map, lines drawn by hand. Rivers like serpents, forests marked with circles, symbols for towns, bridges, ruins. You stare at it, blinking as if into light. He lays it flat on the floor beside the fire. There's a place, he says, tapping the edge, past the Garonne. Warm hills, vineyards, almond trees. I saw a woman there with bread in her apron and a baby on her hip. You close your eyes, try to picture it, but all you see is snow. He notices your hesitation. I don't offer escape, he says gently. Only knowledge. Sometimes that's enough. You trace the map with your finger. The charcoal smudges beneath your skin. He watches you. You've lost much, he murmurs. You nod. So have I, he adds. And still, we walk. He stays. The night shares stories by the fire of abbeys lit by candlelight, of brothers who sing the psalms until dawn, of markets where oranges hang like suns. You listen in silence. Your eyes sting, but you don't cry. When dawn creeps into the sky, pale and thin, he gathers his things. He leaves you the map, not as a promise, as a possibility. You walk with him to the edge of the village. His footsteps are light, despite the weight on his back. Before he leaves, he turns. There is more than this, he says softly, even now. Then he goes. You stand alone, watching the road he disappears down. The map presses warm against your chest, tucked beneath your tunic. You do not yet know if you will follow it, but for the first time in a long while, you believe that you could. It happens in the dead of night, when the fire is no more than a whisper in the hearth, and the moon hides behind a veil of clouds. The village lies still, tucked into its bed of snow and frost, breath shallow, bones weary. The hovel walls do not stir. Your body is half dreaming, half waiting restless in the way only hunger can make it. Then a noise, soft, swift, a grunt, the creak of wood, the quick patter of feet. You sit up, heart already hammering, senses tightening like rope drawn taut. You hear Bernard's old blade unsheathed behind you, the scrape of iron on sheathed leather. He hasn't spoken in days, but tonight even he is awake. You rise. Open the door, snow crunches outside. Faint footprints vanish into the darkness, low, hurried, masked by wind. By morning the truth stands naked. The pig is gone. The only pig left in the village. Small, half-starved, but still breathing. Meant to be bred come spring. Meant to be shared, perhaps, if it survived. Now the pen is empty. The gate left open. A few strands of broken twine twist in the wind. The bailiff arrives before the second bell. He comes on horseback, cloak flapping like a black wing, sword at his side, though it's never been drawn. His eyes are hard, too bright. He is not here to reason, he is here for blood. The villagers gather, cloaked and silent, like sheep before the slaughter. No one speaks, no one needs to. They know what's coming. He walks the line slowly, lips curled in disgust. You think yourselves desperate, he spits. You haven't tasted desperation yet. He stops in front of you. You can feel his breath, sour with wine. Where were you last night? You stare at him. He strikes you across the face. It is not rage, it is theatre. You fall backward into the snow, cheeks stinging. Bernard steps forward. The bailiff draws his blade half an inch. Bernard stops. A murmur moves through the crowd. Someone whispers your name. Someone else looks away. There is no trial, no question, only the sentence. You are dragged to the square. The bailiff orders to men to bind your wrists to the whipping post old oak, cracked from time, still stained with other people's pain. Your shirt is torn. Snow melts against your back. The world narrows to breath and bark and the quiet gasp of those who cannot help. The first lash lands like fire. You do not cry out, not at first, by the third. You taste blood. By the fifth, you are no longer here. Your mind leaves the square, walks the forest path, finds the river, slips beneath its frozen skin. Anything to escape the bite of leather, the rhythm of cruelty. Colette is gone. The children are gone. Bernard can only watch. There is no one to stop this. And then it ends. You collapse into the snow. The bailiff turns his back. A guard kicks your boots. Get up, he says. You do not move. You are carried home. Bernard lays you by the fire. He does not speak. He boils water, tears linen into strips, cleans your wounds with hands that do not tremble. The burns on your back sing with each breath. You sleep, but not deeply. You dream of pigs with human eyes, of ropes that whisper your name, of a world where bread is bought with skin. The next morning, someone leaves a hunk of cheese at your door. No note, just silence. The pig is never found. No one admits guilt. No one accuses again. But now, when you walk through the village, eyes drop, feet shuffle. You are marked not as a thief, but as a warning. Punishment here is not about guilt. It is about memory, and your back will remember. So will theirs. The snow has begun to melt, though the thaw is not gentle. It comes in fits and starts an afternoon of softness followed by another night of frost, a beam of sun swallowed again by grey. The earth groans beneath its frozen blanket, muddy and bruised. Footpaths become rivers. Straw roofs drip from the edges, water falling in slow, rhythmic drops like the ticking of a clock. Without hands, the village begins to move again. Slowly, warily, men return to the fields with shovels and spades, breaking the stubborn crust of winter's retreat. Women air out cloaks beneath what little sun appears, while children scavenge beneath the eaves for forgotten tools, a shard of dried carrot, a cracked spoon. Life, it seems, refuses to die completely. And then, one morning, the rose appears. It is found on the Lord's doorstep. A single wild rose petals, still red, still full, as if plucked from the summer that has not yet arrived. Its stem is stripped of thorns, laid across the stone threshold like an offering, or a warning. Don't. No one admits to placing it. No one dares. Ask who did by noon. The manor is buzzing. The bailiff storms through the village, cloak snapping behind him like a banner of war. He bellows questions, makes threats, promises consequence. His face is red with fury and disbelief. A rose, he spits, pacing before the chapel. A flower, left like some peasant's jest. He claims it was meant as an insult, a challenge to the Lord's grace, a symbol of defiance. You say nothing, nor does Bernard, nor does anyone. The next morning, the punishment begins. A boy is lashed for sneezing in the presence of the steward. A girl is struck for walking too near the manor orchard. An old woman's goat is taken for trespass. There is no pattern to the violence, no logic, only message. We see you, we control beauty. Even that still, no one confesses. The rose remains in memory, not in soil. You hear rumors whispers, exchanged by the hearth, behind chapel stones. Some say it was a child, mourning a sibling taken by fever. Others claim it was a servant girl, her heart broken by a steward's hand. One man insists it was left by God, a sign that the land itself weeps for the poor. But in truth, it doesn't matter who placed it. What matters is that it bloomed. What matters is that someone dared. A rose in winter is no small thing. It means someone walked into the woods, dug through snow and thorns, found color in a colorless world, and placed it where power sleeps. You return to the field that evening. The sky is a dull violet. The earth beneath your feet softens slightly with the season's first true warmth. You bend, digging with bare fingers, turning soil for no reason but the feel of it. Bernard approaches, watching you. Why do you bother? He asks. You look at your hands, dirty and cold. Because something might grow, you answer. He says nothing, but he does not leave. The rose is never seen again, but its absence is louder than any sermon in the days that follow. Something changes. People speak in glances. They pass things hand to hand without words. Bread, kindling, news. They begin to smile, rarely but truly, not with joy, but with recognition that something broke quietly, not a wall, not a rule, a silence. And though the lash still swings, though the steward still watches, the people now carry something different in their eyes. Memory, not just of pain, but of the day when someone laid a rose before a lord and refused to explain. The match is made without question, without courtship, and certainly without love. There is no announcement, no festival, no song, just a nod from the steward, a glance from the priest, and a murmured agreement between two families who have little to give and even less to lose. A marriage, in this world, is not a celebration, it is an arrangement of survival, like planting cabbage near leaks, or sharing bread during lean weeks. Your name is spoken first, then hers. You know her already, though only in passing. Her name is Margot. She is a year younger, perhaps 2, broad-shouldered, quiet-eyed. You've seen her hauling wood, tying rushes, gathering stones from the field with hands that do not tremble, even in the cold. She does not smile often. When she does, it is brief and lopsided, like someone remembering a joke too old to explain. There is no feast, only a prayer. The priest says the words in a chapel thick with damp. The benches are half empty, the candles are stunted. Margot stands beside you, her face unreadable, her hands folded before her. Her dress is plain, faded blue patched at the elbows. Her boots leak at the sole. He asks if you will honor each other. You nod. So does she. That is enough. The marriage is sealed with a wafer and a nod. No ring, no kiss, no music. Outside, it is raining not hard, just a steady drizzle that turns the paths to sludge and the rooftops to drums. A few villagers nod to you as you pass. Some do not. Bernard claps a heavy hand to your shoulder. He does not speak, but his silence feels like a blessing. At the hovel, you make room. Her few belongings are placed near the hearth. A small satchel, a bundle of cloth, a wooden spoon with initials carved faintly into the handle. You eat together that night, facing the fire, turnip, broth, to pieces of rye. Neither of you says much. Words feel too sharp in the mouth, too fresh against the soft, uncertain quiet between you. She lays her cloak on the same mat you sleep on. You do not touch. She does not ask you to. The wind moans through the thatch above. Rain drums on the roof, like distant hoofbeats. In the dark she speaks. My brother died in spring, fell through ice. You wait, my mother. Not long after, still she does not cry. You listen. You do not say you are sorry. You do not say you understand. You do not offer the hollow comfort of strangers. Instead, you whisper. The ground remembers. A pause. Then, softly, so do I. Days pass. She rises early, works beside you without complaint. Her steps match your pace. Her hands find yours in the soil without hesitation. She is not tender, but she is constant. You begin to move in rhythm, like oxen yoked, not by rope, but by routine. One night, after a day of planting, she hands you a mug of warm milk, thick with herbs. You take it, drink. She does not look at you, only sits down beside the fire and begins to stitch a tear in your cloak. Later, in bed, your shoulders touch. Only slightly, only once. But neither of you moves away. Spring arrives, though slowly. The snow recedes. The fields green at the edges. The sky opens now and then, revealing a blue so pure it makes your chest ache. You catch her singing once, softly. Softly only. A few notes, a lullaby. When she notices you listening, she stops. You do not speak of it, but that night you hum it back to her beneath your breath. She smiles, just barely, and the room, though still small, feels warmer. You do not know if you love her, not yet, but you have stopped counting the days. You have stopped fearing the silence. And sometimes, when she leans beside you, shoulder to shoulder, breath to breath, you find that even without music, even without celebration, something inside you begins to soften. Not all marriages are born of choice, but some become a kind of peace. It begins, not with a cry, but a flutter. One morning, while the sun stretches gold across the tilled earth and the air smells faintly of new grass, Margot places your hand on her belly. Her eyes are steady, her fingers firm. Beneath your palm, something stirs small, uncertain, alive. A seed quickening in the soil of her body. You do not speak. There are no words wide enough for what you feel. Later, you walk the fields alone, your boots sinking into mud, the scent of spring thick in your nose. The birds have returned. Sparrows in the hedgerows. A hawk circling above the fields. You pause, watching a bee disappear into the soft throat of a blossom. The earth breathes again, and so do you. Margot does not soften as her belly grows. She works as before, her hands kneading dough, sewing seams, lifting buckets without complaint. But her steps grow slower. Her back curves gently. And sometimes, when she thinks you are not looking, she rests her hand against her stomach and closes her eyes. The hovel changes. Not in size, not in shape, but in air. A warmth begins to settle. There, a rhythm. She hums more now, often the same tune she once sang beside the fire. You find yourself humming it to dot the villagers. Notice an old woman gives you a scrap of linen for the babe, she says, her voice like crumbling parchment. A boy carves a rattle from birch wood. Bernard, now older than ever, clears a patch of earth behind the hovel and plants something you don't recognize. For the child, he mutters. Even the rats seem quieter these days. As Margot swells, so does your sense of time. Days stretch and bend. You begin to imagine years. You catch yourself wondering what name the child will carry, what stories you'll tell, what laughter will sound like in the corners of this place. And then comes the night. The pain starts as a whisper in her spine. By dusk, she is bent over the hearth, knuckles white, breath sharp. You light candles, heat water, remember the midwife's words. But there is no midwife here, no priest, no physician, just you and Margot, and the child trying to enter a world of mud and ash and stubborn light. She does not scream, she growls, like the earth, like something ancient. The hours pass in waves, cries and silences, trembling and stillness. You hold her hand, mop her brow, whisper stories you do not know the endings to, and then, as the first bird calls into dawner, cry, sharp, piercing, dot, alive, dot. You hold the child in trembling hands, a boy, wet and pink and furious. He wails as if to challenge the heavens, fists clenched, lungs full. You wrap him in a blanket stitched from old tunics. Margot lies back, eyes closed, her chest heaving. You place the child on her breast. She opens her eyes, and for the first time in your long memory of silence, she weeps. So do you. The sun rises over the field. The earth steams gently. A single stalk of barley bends in the breeze outside the window, green and gold and full of promise. You sit together, mother and father, beside the hearth. The child suckles, greedy and strong, and you realize that survival is no longer enough now. There is something to protect, something to grow. The future has a face now, and it is yours. It starts with the smell of smoke, thin, sharp, not the familiar scent of hearthwood or cooking fires, but something darker, something acrid. You lift your head from the cradle where your son sleeps and sniff the air. Beside you, Margot pauses mid-stitch, needle frozen in her hand. Outside, the spring wind changes. The birds fall silent. Then comes the shouting. You open the door. The wind hits your face, hot and sudden. It tastes of ash. The bell at the chapel rings not for mass, but for alarm. A hollow clang, fast and frantic. You rush past Bernard, who is already limping toward the path with his stick, his face pale with understanding. You follow the trail of smoke, thick and growing thicker, past the rows of sprouting barley, past the small orchard, until you see it. The mill is on fire. The thatched roof glows red along the edges, flame curling upward like fingers grasping at the sky. The wooden walls snap and collapse inward as heat builds from the center. The wheel, once spinning lazily in the creek, is stilled, now one half-scorched black, the other reflecting flame in the water like a dying star. Villagers run with buckets, some full, most half empty. Mud clings to their boots, their gowns, their cries. You grab a pail and join the line, passing water hand to hand up the hill to the blaze. The fire hisses but does not yield. The mill groans like a wounded beast. Someone screams a name. The miller's apprentice? No one can find him. He was last seen near the grain bags. Someone swears he ran out. Another says he never did. Panic spirals. The fire surges higher. You throw water until your arms ache, until your hands blister, until your legs no longer feel like your own. The heat bakes your face. Soot fills your nose, your eyes, your mouth. You taste fear. You smell loss, then dash collapse. The roof caves in. The fire spits up like a geyser, then falls inward, consuming itself. Silence follows. No one speaks. Smoke coils into the sky, thick as wool. Later, when the embers have cooled, the villagers stand before the ruins. Blackened beams, charred grain, a few twisted tools. The creek runs red-brown with ash. The wheel, split and steaming, turns once, then stops. No sign of Jacques d'Arc. The priest offers a prayer. It doesn't rise. That night, the village gathers, not in celebration, in reckoning. The mill was more than a building, it was the heart of the harvest. Without it, the grain cannot be ground. Without flour, there is no bread. Voices clash in the dark, accusations, fears, some say lightning, others sabotage, a grudge, a curse, old feuds reignited by hunger. One man swears he saw a shadow flee the scene. Another claims it was punishment for pride. You sit beside Margot, holding your son against your chest. His breath is warm on your collarbone. His tiny fingers twitch in sleep. You think of fire, of how quickly it swallows, of how even something ancient, something relied upon, can vanish in a moment. And yet the next morning you return to the field. Others do too. The smoke still lingers, but beneath it, life stirs. A group of men begins clearing debris. The women form a circle to discuss where to grind flour next. Children help sweep the ash from the path. Someone brings bread from the next village over stale. But shared dot, Margot stitches a new sack to hold grain, and Bernard drives a stake into the earth near the ruins, marking the place with a crude carving of a flame and a sheaf. You watch as the villagers move together, not in joy, but in unity. The fire took much, but in its wake, something else smoulders. Not rage, not revenge, something quieter, resolve. It comes on a Tuesday, carried in the satchel of a rider whose cloak is torn and boots caked with 6 villagers worth of dust. He rides a chestnut mare so lean her ribs seem carved from wood, and his face is a study in silenced and cracked, expressionless. He does not smile, he does not rest. He ties the mare to the chapel post and opens his bag. Scrolls, letters, proclamations, sealed with red wax, stamped with a crest that glints like dried blood in the midday sun. The villagers gather, hesitant. Few can read, but all know the smell of news from above. The air tightens. The sun seems to dim. The priest is summoned. He breaks the seal. His voice, when he reads, is measured. But there is something brittle beneath it. The king has called for men. Another war, not near, not yet. Somewhere distant over the mountains, past rivers whose names no one here can pronounce. A border dispute, a noble's insult, a castle seized, salt tariffs, something to do with honor, something to do with gold, always something. The words drift across the square like crows. The villagers listen, heads lowered. Some nod, some scoff. Some simply turn and walk away. No one is surprised. The world above is always boiling. It only matters when it spills. By nightfall, the scrolls are nailed to the chapel door. The ink runs slightly from rain. You read the names of noble houses involved. None familiar. Their war is not your war, and yet its cost will reach you already. The bailiff has posted a new tax to extra sacks of rye per family. 1 goat per 10 heads. If you cannot give, they will take. The next morning, you dig deeper into the fields. Your body aches, but you press harder. Margot does the same, sweat streaking her brow, the child slung at her back in a cloth wrap. His cries are muffled by motion. He sleeps better when the world moves. Bernard limps into the forest to check the snares. He returns with nothing but pine resin on his hands. That evening, you find your son holding the edge of the scroll nailed to the door. He does not read it. He cannot. But his fingers trace the wax seal with the wonder of a child. Drawn to flame, you lift him gently and carry him home. Over the next week, more riders pass through, some on horseback, some on foot, all tired, all silent. They do not stop for food, nor for prayer. They speak little, but they carry weapons. That is message enough. The war grows louder in its silence. One morning, a boy from the neighboring village arrives, barefoot and breathless. They're taking men from the roads. He gasps, pressing them into service. No one asks where. It doesn't matter. You begin to sleep with your boots beside the bed, just in case. The villagers meet in the dark. They speak of hiding, of barter, of sending their sons to the hills. Some suggest digging caches in the woods, burying food, tools, coin. Others suggest surrendering early appeasement over resistance. Margot listens, then stands. If we give them everything now, she says, voice quiet but sharp, what will we have left to lose when they return? The room goes still. Then slowly, heads nod. A decision is made. Each house hides what it can. Food, mostly. A little silver. A few tools. A small barrel of salted meat is buried beneath the chicken coop. You carve a mark in the bark of the ash. Tree behind the hovel. 1 line for bread, 2 for grain, a 3rd for truth. The scrolls remain on the chapel door. No one reads them anymore, but every child knows their shape, and every adult dreams of fire. The war is not here, not yet, but it breathes at the edge of your fields, and already it is hungry. The night comes without clouds. For the first time in weeks, the sky is clear black as ink, pierced by stars that glimmer like distant candles set adrift in the firmament. The moon hangs low and pale, a silent coin tossed across heaven's floor. The air is still, touched by the faintest breath of summer's promise, and the fields shimmer with dew like pearls stitched into the earth. You step out of the hovel alone. Margot sleeps inside, curled around your son, whose breath rises and falls. In soft rhythm, his fingers twitch against her side, chasing dreams that you pray are gentle. The hearth glows low, its embers casting a tired red light on their faces. In your hand is the map, the one the monk left. Its parchment is frayed, its ink faded in places, but the lines are still there, hand-drawn paths, not of certainty, but of hope. It rustles faintly in the breeze as you kneel beside the ash tree. Beneath your feet, the roots press against the soles of your boots like old truths. You unroll the map against your knee, trace the rivers, the forests, the villages with names you've never heard spoken aloud, past the hills, beyond the southern border, toward vineyards and warmth and streets that do not turn to sludge when it rains. You feel it rising again, the ache, not just for escape, but for something more. A life not bound by grain counts and tax scrolls. A world where your son can walk, without fear, without bowing, without flinching. A place where bread is not worshipped, but shared. Where your back does not bear the story of injustice. Behind you, the hovel creaks. You turn. Margot stands in the doorway, the child still sleeping against her chest. Her eyes meet yours. She does not ask what you are doing. She knows. She walks to you slowly, kneeling in the grass beside the map. The moonlight washes over her hair, catching silver in strands too young for age. She rests her free hand on your shoulder. You're thinking of leaving, she says. It is not a question. You nod. For him. You glance at your son. His lips are parted, his brow soft. He does not know what the world asks of him yet. He does not know the weight you carry. For all of us, you answer. She looks down at the map. Her fingers touch its edge. Then she leans into you, her head resting against your arm. Would we be safer there? She whispers. I don't know. Would we be freer? You hesitate. I want to believe it. The wind shifts. A fox calls in the distance. Somewhere, a night. Bird takes flight. She closes her eyes. I don't want to lose this place, she says. It has taken so much, but it gave us him. You nod. Words would only fall short. She takes your hand, presses the child into your arms. His warmth fills you like light in a cold chapel. He stirs, but does not wake. I will follow, she says. Quietly, if you ask. You look down at the map. Its lines no longer seem so far away. They pulse now with possibility, but also with risk. You fold it carefully. Slide it back into your coat. The stars above you shimmer in silence. You do not decide tonight, but you know the road is there, waiting, breathing, listening, and soon one way or another, you will walk it. The seasons turn again, as they always do. The barley grows tall, rippling like a golden sea beneath the summer sun. The orchard blossoms. The birds return in numbers, their songs weaving through the trees like threads of joy too delicate to hold. The village breathes, slowly, hesitantly. Life does not forget pain, but it does persist. You stayed, not out of fear, not because the world beyond the map seemed too vast. You stayed because the soil asked you to, because your son's first steps were taken in this mud, because Margot's laughter, rare and real, echoed best against these old wooden beams, because the graves you dug still call your name, and because here Raven, here you found something, like peace, the war past, like thunder behind the hills, close but not crushing. The king's soldiers never came to your door. Perhaps your village was too small, too poor. Perhaps the priest's prayers held more weight than you knew. Or perhaps fate, for once, turned its eyes elsewhere. You survived, but more than that, you lived. Your son grows quickly. His feet find paths before he knows where they lead. He speaks with the confidence of someone not yet taught to fear his own voice. His first word was son, his second, soil. You could not have chosen better. Bernard died in his sleep. Beneath the ash tree, you found him in the morning, still and calm, his hands folded over his chest, his face tilted toward the rising light. You buried him beside Colette, marked his grave with a stone shaped like a boot. No words, just presence. Margot stands stronger now. She teaches the other women to bind sheaves faster, to preserve herbs longer. She has become a pillar knot, not praised, but known. And in her quiet, you find your strength. Sometimes, on warm evenings, you walk the edges of the field with the map still folded in your pocket. Not because you mean to leave, but because the dream it once held reminds you that you chose this, that you made something here, that the story you wrote is not one of escape, but of endurance. And now the village children play in the square again. The chapel bell rings for weddings more often than for mourning. Bread is baked daily. The communal oven has been repaired, and you can smell rosemary and ash as you pass by. No one sings of you, no bards come to etch your tale into parchment. But when the sun rises and the dew clings to the wheat, when your son chases butterflies between rows of carrots, when the sky breaks open in a soft rain and the land drinks deeply than the earth, it remembers the calloused hands that sowed the seed, the back bent beneath winter's weight, the heart that beat through hunger and grief and flame, the man who chose to stay, to dig, to love, to rebuild. And when you are gone one day, quietly, without fear, the soil will not forget you. Your name will not be written in stone, but in stalk and stream, in rusted tools and in the rhythm of footsteps taken with reverence. Your life will echo in the plough's creak, in the rustle of barley, in the whispered lullaby of a mother at dusk. This land, which once demanded everything, will carry you, and someone, someday, will walk this field and feel your presence in the tilt of the earth and know someone lived here, someone endured, someone mattered. As the last ember fades in this story, I thank you for walking this quiet road through time. If you found rest in this journey, subscribe and return when your heart is ready for another forgotten path. What moment in this story stayed with you the most? As the last candle flickers out in this forgotten world, I thank you for walking beside me through the quiet fields of history. If your heart found stillness in these echoes, subscribe and return when you wish to feel the past breathe again. Could you have endured a life bound by another's will? What part of this story lingered longest in your thoughts? Would you have stayed or run?